just learned that a vicious gang of armed thugs have taken a number of hostages on the 15th and 97th floors. The attackers interrupted a live broadcast debate hosted by Julian Temple, the owner of Temple Networks, on the increase of violent crime within the city.
Grant City has fallen into darkness. Taken over by crime and overrun with corruption, it's up to Vice Cop Jack Slate to restore order. And when the crime outbreak gets all too personal, Jack will stop at nothing to find the truth, and with the help of his trusty canine unit Shadow, bring justice back to the once great city.
Murdering triad piece of shit! He was the best cop this city ever had!
Dead to Rights Retribution is a reimagining of 2002's Dead to Rights. It's a more modern retelling of the story with a slightly futuristic twist. The story design is extremely well done, and even though the plot is a tad predictable, it did a great job of keeping my interest. The sound design is also very well done, with a decent soundtrack and excellent voice acting that really help to make the characters more interesting and relatable.
Tonight, you're my doctor, and I kinda think I might be in need of a sponge bath. Ow.
The gameplay has you switching back and forth between Jack and Shadow. Jack has an impressively varied combat repertoire at his disposal. With a boxing background, he is well versed in hand-to-hand combat. Punches and kicks are the majority of the attacks, but he can also clinch his enemies, allowing him to beat them down and even take them hostage to use as portable cover. This is a lot of fun to do, and tossing a handcuffed enemy off a building and sending them to the morgue in a pancake-shaped body bag seems to never get old. Once Jack has an enemy sufficiently beat down, he can perform a takedown which activates one of several vicious kill animations that will have you both cheering and cringing. These kill animations do get a bit repetitive, and a few glitches can make them look odd, but their brutal and unforgiving nature make them enjoyable to watch even after you've already seen them a dozen times. The brutal style of combat continues with the gunplay. Headshots are rewarded with a short burst of slow motion, just long enough for you to enjoy your handiwork. And similar to the hand-to-hand combat, each weapon has its own violent and bloody takedown that can be performed after beating your opponents down a bit. Each kill helps you fill your focus meter, which can be used to gain the edge over your opponents by slowing down the action. It's something we've seen several times before, but it's still fun to use when mowing down a room full of enemies. As you'd expect, the weapons in the game are pretty standard. Machine guns, sniper rifles, shotguns, and so on. There really isn't much we haven't seen before. There is also a cover system in the game, but unfortunately it is incredibly wonky, and jumping in and out of cover feels very stiff, which means you will most likely rarely use it until you reach the more difficult levels of the game. Despite its control issues and occasional animation glitches, playing as Jack is enjoyable, and the game does a great job of alternating between hand-to-hand and gun combat to make the gameplay feel less repetitive. In addition to Jack, you can also play as his canine unit, Shadow. Shadow's missions are mostly stealth-based, and usually take place when Jack is unable to enter an area due to a locked door. With the ability to sense his enemies' heartbeats, Shadow is able to see enemy locations in order to plan his attack. Once he's sufficiently ripped out the throat or other extremities out of his opponent, he can then hide the bodies so that they remain undetected. Shadow's gameplay does get repetitive quickly, but it is very unique, and due to the fact that his movement and combat are much more fluid than Jack's, I found myself eager to get to each of his levels. Dead to Rights Retribution has no multiplayer, which is extremely disappointing because the dynamic of Jack and Shadow as partners could have lent itself very well to a co-op experience. And although the game does encourage replayability by rating your performance on each level, without any modes other than the single-player campaign, the replay value suffers quite a bit. The biggest disappointment in the game, however, are the graphics, which feel several years old. Character models and environments look bland, animations often look a bit odd, and even though the art style does attempt to hide its visual imperfections, it was hard to escape the feeling that at times I was playing a budget title. Despite its flaws, Dead to Rights Retribution is an enjoyable experience. The great, albeit predictable story with excellent writing and voice acting, combined with brutal combat and cringe-worthy takedowns, make it a game you will not regret playing once it's all said and done. If you're looking for something violent and fun, and can excuse its minor imperfections, give Dead to Rights Retribution a rental and you'll be sure to enjoy it. For the latest video game reviews, money-saving promotions, and to learn about upcoming Gamer Lounge events, visit thegamerlounge.net.